We're out on, I like to call it Menantico.
It's Menantico.
It's Menantico.
The Menantico Ponds Preserve.
I was going Menantico. Like, give it a little spin. Well, I'm from North Jersey, so you have to forgive me.
Switch that stress around.
And we're here with Carla. Hey, Carla. And Carla is from Citizens United for the protection of the Maurice River and its tributaries.
Pretty close. You know, the first workshop I went to, I was nervous to say our name because it's such a long name.
It's so long.
It is long, but it really explains what we are. So we're Citizens United to protect the Maurice River and its tributaries.
Oh. And you didn't get watershed in there too?
We could have.
Been like
we could
1,700.
have. But so just recently, a couple of years ago, we shortened our name to CU Maurice River. So
right. I like that. CU Maurice River.
That's right.
So who's Jane?
Jane Galetto. So Jane Galetto.
Super Jane. I like
Super Jane. She is Super Jane. She became involved in our organization back in '79 when it was founded. Many citizens came together in order to object to the building of a hazardous waste site on the Maurice River. And the group grew and grew. In 1986, it was incorporated as a 501c3. And the group worked to get a national designation for the river, which it was awarded in 1993. And that's the wild and scenic designation. And so
important for a lot of different reasons.
Very, very important.
For funding, for recognition, for
well, it recognizes the outstanding resources of our river, not just the natural, but also the cultural, and the interplay between the two. You know, the old oystering industry and the sail lofts. They're all very interconnected with the health of the natural resource. So this designation recognizes the Maurice River and the culture of the area as nationally and also globally important. So CU Maurice River is also a partnership organization to the National Park Service.
Right, got it. What's your part? What do you do?
So I am the program manager.
What?
That's what I do. I'm the program manager. And what I do...
Square dancing.
Hey.
In charge of fun.
Hey. See, she did.
That's,
hey.
Yeah. That's a
Bales,
good idea.
hey.
That's a good idea. We do have social events.
Nice.
We have...
It's important.
We do have dances.
Yes.
Our fall fundraiser is a dance.
I could be your DJ. We could do like an old funk disco
I would
night.
enjoy that.
I would be, or a reggae night. I'd definitely be your happy DJ.
I like that idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to be calling on you.
Please do.
I like the idea of a reggae
That's
night.
201. 555.
So what do I do? So what do I do? As the program manager, what I'm charged with is getting people outdoors.
Nice.
And creating those opportunities, whether that's volunteering or participating. And what I aim to do is create awareness of this amazing treasure that we have right here in New Jersey's backyard.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I went to Stockton back in the early to mid 90s, and I stayed on campus. Oh, not on campus. I lived off campus, but I stayed in the area all 4 years because I love it. I mean, it's so beautiful down here.
Yeah.
People just don't know. So I've been all over Batstow, all over the rivers in Atlantic County, and it's heaven. It's heavenly. I think the pine forests of New Jersey are some of the most underrated, abused, beautiful natural area in the whole world. There's smells in that forest that I've never smelled before in my life, and I'm not talking bad smells.
Yeah.
I'm talking like pine smells. If I could bottle it,
or the wetland, the smell of the wetland as well.
It's like heaven.
All kids notice it when you go over a bridge in South Jersey.
It reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah.
Just happy childhood. Being
So
down here.
the Pine Barrens, we actually, two of the tributaries of the Maurice River are part of the Pine Barrens Preserve, and that's the eastern shore of the Many-Muskin and also the Muskie Creek.
Tell me about the land that was recently acquired and protected.
That is a very big deal. So that's a Holly Farm, and that's 1,400 plus acres.
Right.
And that piece was very important. Citizens United had been working to get that protected for 30 years. And Jane
generation after generation.
Yeah. Well, Jane had been there from the very beginning, and that's one of the things that CU has been elemental in or fundamental in is the preservation of lands within the corridor of the river. So if you look at our river in Google Maps or some type of satellite imaging, you'll see that the shorelines of our river are mostly green. They're undeveloped, and so that's protecting, you know, the water quality, and it's protecting the fish, and it's protecting the birds and all of the wildlife, and also the flora that sustain these the food web. So it's really quite important. And Jane has been, you asked me before who Jane was, and I don't think I did her justice.
Right.
And yeah, she has been a leader in South Jersey and all of New Jersey for over 30 years now. And you know, she was a driving force behind the wild and scenic designation, which you know, I said before, it recognizes the values of our river, but it also works as clout for us to bring money into the area. You know, it brings economic resources into the area when we get grants and preservation and the like. So you know, that was really a big deal that she was able to obtain that. And it was an entire citizen community driven effort, because there was a vote that had to be, in order to get a wild and scenic designation, it has to go to a vote.
Right.
And I forget what the percentage is, but it was something like, you know, 80% or some overwhelming percent of the citizen of the voting population voted yes on that question.
Did you have any help from local Congress people or council people? Or?
Absolutely, absolutely, at that time, and also the municipalities.
Right.
They also wanted the wild and scenic. Holly.
It's just so peaceful.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go, right through it. A little gallery of trees. That's what it's called in Spanish. When the trees grow over top of you, they call it a gallery, una Adaria. So this is a little gallery of trees here. Speckled in colors and fall colors. The diversity of plants here is really impressive. When you come down, and every season there's something in bloom or fruiting. And it's so fun to just kayak around these shorelines and take in some of the plants and the interaction between the wildlife and the plants. The butterflies and the caterpillars, the birds. And got some eelgrass underneath of us here. And I gotta steer you away from the blueberry there. To come around. That's a chokeberry there. It's called chokeberry because the birds actually don't prefer it. So it might be a great plant to plant, because once all the other berries run out, the birds will eat that. And so it's a great late winter source of sustenance for wildlife. I love this place. I need to get you a little closer to some interesting flora.
All right. Yes, I know. We did
That's a cedar there, also called juniper. And it is, let's look at this. Juniper is the source of gin. But the berries that are actually, they look like berries, and people call them berries, but they're actually cones. And the males and females have different colors. The birds just go nuts for a cedar. Not only do they provide food, but they also provide shelter from larger predatory animals. So, cedar's a great tree. I'm looking to see if I can find some winterberry for you to get a couple pictures of. It's a beautiful tree. Should be on here because I like that. There's some sweet pepper bush in here. And the story on that is that when it's in bloom in springtime, the Native Americans used to take the bloom and they would put it in water. They would froth up, and it's so aromatic. It smells so good when it blooms. Oh, you can smell it from quite a distance. And they would use it as a perfume or soap.
Hey everybody, what's happening? Where are we? We're at the library. We've been all around Cumberland County reading books for you, and now we're back home at the library. So I hope you enjoyed your visit today to a beautiful pond and that you learned lots of things. And we're going to be picking up on that theme by reading some books related to ponds and nature and water and critters that live on ponds. And the first book that we're going to start with is a cute little book called Tad. And Tad is a tadpole, of course, and it says sometimes the biggest stories have the smallest beginnings. And Tad is written by Benji Davies, and I believe that Benji also illustrated the book. And it's just beautiful. Look at that. Do you know what these are? They're eggs with little tadpoles inside of them. Isn't that cool? And you know where you can find these? Under the water at a pond. So here's Tad by Benji Davies. And Benji dedicates this for all the small people who want to be big people, especially for Esther. All right, Esther. Ooh. Here we go. You ready? I hope you enjoy it. Tad was a frog. Well, that's not quite true. She was almost a frog. Look how beautiful that is. You see little bubbles Tad's making? Tad was small, smaller than her Tad brothers, smaller than her Tad sisters. Tad was the smallest, almost a frog, in the whole wide pond. She was so small that she had to wiggle her tail twice as fast as any of the others just to keep up. "Keep up," they would say, "or Big Blub will get you." Big Blub. I don't know about Big Blub. Oh, look at Big Blub. Tad had never seen Big Blub. Big Blub, as they say, was a great, big, nasty fish. Big Blub swam in the deep, dark, murky part of the pond. He was as old as the mud, they said. He would wait until the sun went behind the clouds, till the whole pond was gray. Then he would glide out from the dark patches and... dun dun dun! Gulp! No, Tad did not want to know. She decided not to believe in Big Blub. There is no Big Blub. I don't know about Big Blub. What are you talking about? But just in case she kept to the shallow, sunny parts of the pond where Big Blub could not get her. And when the sun went behind the clouds, she carefully hid behind the rocks and plants, hoping that Big Blub would not find her. That's a hard word, 2 hard words to say together. Big Blub, Big Blub, Big Blub, bleh, bleh, bleh. That's what I would say eventually. Day by day, the tadpoles grew. They grew back legs, then front legs. They grew webbed toes, and their legs grew longer, and their legs grew stronger. Stretching their 4 legs as wide as they could, they felt like they wanted to climb out of the pond. They rushed into the shallow water quicker than you and I could blink. Swoosh, wiggle, swish, swish, wiggle, swoosh. Their tails got smaller and smaller until they no longer had tails at all. "We've lost our tails! We've lost our tails!" they cheered, all except for Tad. Tad still had her little tail. Every night they would find a big leaf and curl up together. But as the nights passed, Tad noticed fewer and fewer tadpoles to curl up with. Each night, Tad counted her tad brothers and tad sisters. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Where had they all gone? She didn't like to think. Look, she still had her tail. Tad played in the shallows with her last tad brother and her last tad sister. "You can't catch us, Big Blub," her last tad sister called out into the shadows. But soon there were just two. "It seems that there are fewer of us than before, don't you think?" said Tad to her last tad brother. "Don't you think?" Look how long his legs are. He has no tail at all, and she still has her little tail. And then there was only one. But she was strong, and she was clever, and she knew all the best hiding places. Big Blub would never catch her. Look at little Tad. Oh no! Big Blub! Tad swam faster than she had ever swam before. I don't really see her little tail anymore. Look at Big Blub. He's just like, "Where's my lunch? Come here, little tadpole." It's rough in the pond, I tell you. Then Tad did something she had never done before. And up, she swam up and up and up and up and up. Wah! Big Blub sank back to the deep, dark, murky part of the pond, back to the mud where he belonged. Glub, 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 glub. And look, you could see little Tad's legs. Tad climbed up onto a rock, her big round eyes blinking at the bright sky. It felt good to be out of the water. "I've lost my tail, I've lost my tail," she sang. Tad was a frog. She had a funny feeling, a twist in her belly, spreading out to the end of her little toes. She coiled up tight like a spring and jumped. Whee! Whoa. Do you see all her little frog brothers and frog sisters? Because they're not Tad brothers and sisters anymore. You see them all? She finally did it. She made it. And that was it. Now they're all curling up on a leaf above the water. Wasn't that a great book? Look at that picture. So cute. And here we've got a friend. This is a froggy friend. No tail. This frog was once a tadpole, but now he's a full-grown frog. How's it going? Oh, it's okay. This frog lives in my office on top of my computer, keeps me company. Very cute. So yay, that was a wonderful book. Now I'm going to stay with the pond theme for this story time, so I hope you enjoy this next story. It's called Over and Under the Pond. But let's put Tad back here so you can take a look at it as we read our story. And did you see all of our friends? Wow, gravity. Did you see all of our friends up here hanging out with us? They're all creatures that live in, on, or around a pond, or that come to visit a pond, say to hunt. So we've got an eagle, we've got a duck and another duck, quack, quack. We've got Canadian geese. We have a fish. Is that Big Glub or Big Blub or whatever his name was? It looks a little bit happier than Big Blub. This is a giant fish compared to some of these birds, though. We've got an otter. Oh. Otter rests on his back like that on top of the water and eats underwater plants and also fish and crayfish. Whoa, they're so cute. And we've got some other assorted birds that make their home on the pond. I live on a pond, and I saw 5 otters about 4 days ago. They were just skimming off on the little bit of ice that was left from a cold night, And also there are 2 swans on my pond, and they are enormous. They make the Canadian geese look like little ducks. They are just really giant birds. And they make really funny noises too, the swans. So here we go. Since we took you on a pond, and hopefully you learned some things about creatures that live on a pond, we're going to read this lovely book. It's called Over, which is on top, and Under the Pond. So we're going to talk about what's on top of the pond and around the pond, and also what's underwater, which is a whole other world. Yes, and this book is by Kate Messner with art by Christopher Silas Neal. And it's for Matt and Ben and Jasper and River. Okay, here we go. Look at that beautiful picture. You see all the lily pads and the different grasses that grow? Over the pond we slide, splashing through lily pads and sweeping through reeds. It was so nice to be out there on the canoe. I just want to thank Carla and the folks at CU Maurice River for having us there. It was so nice to be out in the water. The water's a mirror reflecting the sky, sunshine and clouds, then a shadow below. What's down there? I ask. Under the pond, Mom says. You see, they can see their reflections in the water. And look, there's a fish. And also you could see the reflection of the clouds and the trees. Yeah. Under the pond is a whole hidden world of minnows and crayfish, turtles and bullfrogs. We're paddling over them right now. Look at all those creatures. There's a turtle, there's a fish. Do you see the boat? That's them looking down into the water. And here's a crayfish and a frog, some minnows. Over the pond, we skim past tall rushes. Whirligig beetles loop and twirl, and skaters, they are like skaters on a warm summer surface. Under the pond, the minnows dart through the waving forests of grass, while a brook trout lurks, ready to lunge. What? They want to get that minnow. Have a little lunch. A little sushi, if you will. Over the pond, we lift and dip and pull past a row of painted turtles on a waterlogged tree. Look at those turtles. They slip off and away, splash, gurgle, sploosh under the pond. Do you see their red bellies? I don't know if it was in today's segment, but in one of these segments that we do about the pond that we're on, we're going to see some turtles. But if we've already seen them, how cool was that? 3 of them in a row on a log. Over the pond, cattails rush and shush in the wind. Listen close. Cook-la-ree, red-winged blackbirds race by. One has grass for her nest. That's the male red-winged blackbird, and that's the female red-winged blackbird, and that's their nest. Under the pond, a caddisfly larva builds a home of her own, a secret shelter of pebbles and sand. Do you know why the birds are 2 different colors? The female bird is brown and speckled because it needs to blend in with the background while she's on the nest, getting the right eggs ready to hatch. And the male blackbird is all pretty and splashy and brightly colored because that's how the female picks out the good male. She's like, oh, you're pretty. Let's make some eggs. Over the pond, the shadows of the trees lean out from the shore. We coast under a low-hanging branch. A moose looks up with a mouthful of water lilies. We've interrupted his lunch. I know we didn't see any moose, but, you know. And there they are, looking at the moose. very pretty. Oh no, I love these critters. Under the pond, the beavers dive deep. They pump up with powerful tails and rise to the surface with delectable roots from the mud. So under the pond, a lot of the creatures depend on the plants that grow under the water to eat for their food, and the beavers and the moose and the birds are some of them. But we don't know because we don't usually go under the pond. We're usually on a boat or swimming on top. Over the pond, the wind gives us a push and stirs up the light dappled leaves on shore. There on a branch, a new goldfish teeters, finally ready to fly. Under the pond, the tadpoles are changing, learning to hop. They're losing tails, growing legs, and growing up. Do you see the moose or deer in the background? Isn't that funny? They're talking about tad also. From a tadpole to a frog. Wow, that's quite a change. Over the pond, there at the shore, tall and silent and still, a great blue heron stares down into the deep. It tenses, takes one long-legged step, and strikes right into the water. It catches a wiggling quicksilver minnow from where it was hiding under the pond. In other words, breakfast. Those herons are beautiful. Over the pond we drift, heads tipped up to the sun. A woodpecker clings to a teetering pine, digging for ants. Do you ever go for a hike in the woods and hear that knocking? And you're like, who's doing construction out here? Who's got a hammer? It's a woodpecker. And they're pecking at the wood to see if they could find some bugs. That's great that they could do that without hurting their head. And under the pond, an otter claws for freshwater mussels. Hello, does it do it? Is that what you do? Yes, yes. Oh, this is good, okay. Hey, that looks like my Uncle Fred. Otters are the best. They play, they love to play. They're just wonderful. So see the mussels buried in the mud? The otter is coming down to grab one of those for lunch. We love the otters. Over the pond, a sleepy dragonfly lands for a rest. His spindly legs tickle my knee. Under the pond, the dragonfly larvae watch what swims by. They catch minnows in their monster fast jaws. Wow. Hey, that's something that I didn't know, that a dragonfly larva can catch a fish. What? That's crazy. Usually you just see dragonflies on top of the water. You don't hear about what their kids are doing under the water. Over the pond, the shadows stretch. Ospreys circle on quiet wing. Raccoons and mink stalk the shoreline for supper. Under the pond, with a flip of a tail, a crayfish disappears into the dark. He didn't want to be that raccoon supper, I guess. And there's the mink. Look at that picture. Isn't that beautiful? Looks like it's getting on sunset time. Over the pond, we head for home. We glide, swish, bump, right up onto shore as a far-off loon calls goodnight. The sky turns from sunset to dusk to dark. Night settles over the pond. The prowling catfish and drowsy turtles, the scuttling crayfish and tadpoles turn frogs, wading herons and stalking raccoons. Do you see all those critters? So that's a loon, that beautiful bird. Here's a frog. There's a bunch of dragonflies. And the stars are out. See where they dock their boat? Right up next to the house. And the hidden world under the pond. Look how pretty that picture is. Beautiful. The hidden world under the pond. And that was it. I thought it was going to say something else, but it just sort of has some of this stuff. So I'm going to read a little bit about some of the critters in here. Just a couple, because there's a lot. So, but hopefully you can come to the library and take this book out, Over and Under the Pond, and you could read for yourself. So here's the author's note. Ponds and other wetlands provide homes for plants and animals around the world. A pond is a kind of an ecosystem, an interconnected community of organisms that interact with one another and their environment. If you look back through the story, you'll find many examples, from the blackbird gathering grass for her nest to many animals eating plants and other animals as part of the food chain. In a pond ecosystem, producers like plants and plankton make their own food using sunlight, water, carbon dioxide from the air, and nutrients from the soil or water. Animals that eat plants, like the fish, birds, beavers, and moose, get their energy from these plants. And animals that eat other animals, like the great blue heron, the otter, and the raccoon, eat both plants and other animals. And at the bottom of the pond are decomposers. There's bacteria and fungi that break down dead and decayed plants and animals to return the nutrients to the soil so the cycle can start all over again. So this story was inspired by a canoe trip on Barnum Pond at the Paul Smith's College Visitor Interpretive Center in the Adirondack Mountains. And if you've never been, I highly recommend you get yourself up to the Adirondacks. It's in upstate New York. It's really beautiful, and I hope you get to see and visit it someday. So thank you so much for tuning in for our story time with all of the pond and all the critters that live in the pond. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoy these books and being out in nature. And I just want to say thank you again to Carla and the other folks at CU Maurice River for taking us out in the pond today, or whenever we went. It wasn't today. And for all their information. And I think that's her calling right now. Hello? Hello? It's my frog phone. Hello? See you later, kids. See you next time. Take care. Hey everybody, what's happening? It's crafting with Miss Adaria and her fabulous hands. Hey, so today we visited a beautiful pond and we saw lots of cool creatures and the water and the trees and all that groovy stuff. And a big, again, thank you to Carla and CU Maurice River for lending us those wonderful canoes and taking us on a tour of the Menantico Ponds. Hey! Old dog can learn new trick or word pronunciation, as it were. So today, guess what we're going to do? We're going to make a pond. What? Yes, I said it. So it must be true. Here's a little model that I made. Isn't that a cute little pond? So you're going to use 3 layers of construction paper. You're going to have your soil, you're going to have your green, and then you're going to have your blue for the water. So let's start in, and what I'm going to do is this. This is going to make it really super easy. You're also going to need a glue stick and a pair of scissors and something to draw the outline of the pond. So we have some of our pond friends here. We have a froggy, and we have a beautiful duck and a lovely otter. Wait. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these 3 pieces of paper and put them right on top of each other, right? And then I'm gonna draw a pond shape. And it's just sort of like, you know, whatever you want your pond to be, just use the whole piece of paper. You can make it wavy like I did, or just a big oval or a circle, or you can make it any way you want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out all 3 pieces of paper right on the line. Get that pond going. Save these scraps because we can use them for stuff around the pond, like grass and other things that makes up a pond. Yes, your question, what's the difference between a pond and a lake? Well, you know what? I don't really know. I'm thinking that a pond is smaller than a lake, but not really. Okay, so now here you have your 3 pieces of construction paper. Soil, growing stuff like plants, and water. So you're going to make this green one a little bit smaller than the brown one. And how you're going to do that is you're just going to follow the same line all the way around. So we're just going to cut in maybe about an inch or so, and then follow the same line all the way around so that you have about an inch all the way around the outside of the surface. I mean the outside of the grass. Okay. And finish pretty much just where you started. So look, you have a cutout. Ooh, it's like a little frame. So see that? It fits on there. Now with your water, you're going to do this. You're going to go like this, and you're going to draw the outline of your water. Actually, no, you're not going to do that. I'm sorry. What you're going to do is, no, you are going to do that. You're going to draw the outline of your grassy area that goes all the way around the pond. And then you're going to cut in a little bit from that. So you're going to go in like about that much. See where the line is? You're going to go in about an inch. And again, follow the curve of the pond. See if I can get my scissor in there. There we go. So that the blue will fit inside of the green. It doesn't have to be exact, and you don't have to go exactly an inch around the whole thing, because the way things grow around a pond is not exactly the same, right? Sometimes there's a little more grass. Sometimes there's a little more water. So there's your soil. Here's your grass. Wait a second. Hold on now. Okay, there we go. There's your soil. There's your grass. And here is your water. Let me see what looks better. Maybe that way? See how cool that is? So you've got your soil around, your grass layer, and your water. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue, with your glue stick, the back of the grass. And you could just follow it around the edge. And give it a little something in the middle so it stays. And glue that puppy right on there. And smooth it down with your hands. Yeah, hands are great. Boop, boop, boop. What do you think of the pond so far?
I cannot wait to get in there and go swimming. So where's the water?
Oh, that's right. Here's the water. How am I going to do this? That's right. So we're going to do the glue on this side. Just go around the edges. Try not to get glue on your other parts of your pond. Oh, like that. But that's okay because I'm going to cover it up with, that's right, this piece of paper. All right, there we go. Okay, duck, you're almost ready to jump in. Except I think you might be a little too big for this pond. What do you think?
Well, it'll be refreshing in any event.
That's right. Okay, now we have our water down there. Woo! Water, water, water. Splash! Oh, it's more like a bathtub for this duck.
Okay, I'll get out for now.
So now, you can decorate your pond in many ways. Do you see what I did here? I just took a piece of scrap paper. And I just cut it like halfway down. See, like that? Don't go all the way. Just cut it halfway down. And you could just go all along. You want to leave a little bit at the bottom so you can kind of tuck it in so it has something to stand up with. You cut them in different ways because grass doesn't grow exactly at the same height by a pond because you're not mowing it, right? Right. It's more natural. And then you could just fold that over. Doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I'm going to snip a little bit off the side there. And you know what's cool about this? You could take that bottom part right there, right? I'm just going to do it on a piece of paper so I don't get the table all gluey. And I'm going to put some glue stick right along the bottom. And then just stand that little grass up right here, right by the edge, so the critters have something to hide in. And look how cool that is. There's your little grass. And here, we'll have some more. We'll do this. Give us a little more glue stick. Get it on the piece of paper. Here we go. Look at this. You can have your other grass right here on this side of the pond. All right, look at that. And then we have other grass over here, but I don't like that grass. I'm going to do something with one of the curved pieces because it looks a little more interesting. So again, I'm just going to cut almost all the way down. Just leave yourself a little room at the bottom. And you can make your grass or whatever this is supposed to be growing, maybe cattails or reeds. You can make them all different shapes and sizes. I'm going to fold that so we have something. Oh, there's a little piece popped off. We can put that somewhere else. And what else grows in a pond? Lily pads, right? Those little green looking Pac-Man guys, I like to call them. Little Pac-Mans. Or Ms. Pac-Man. Pack people. There we go. There's the term. And we'll do some of them next too. So here's a little more grass. You could put it on this side. You could just push it down with your fingers and bend the grass over. And then it just kind of pops right up. So look how cute that is. Here, let's do this one little piece right here. This grass can live all by itself over in this corner. Because sometimes when you look at a pond, some parts of it have a lot of growing things on one side, and some parts of it don't. And I don't know exactly why that is. Maybe because there's a lot of fresh water coming in from a creek, and things don't grow so much over there. Maybe they grow where the water is a little more quiet. But I'm sure some scientists will say, no, Adaria, that is wrong. But I'll look that up. I will Google that. So what else can we put in our pond? How about a couple of beautiful flowers? I cut out a couple of flowers. You can have a flower in your pond. You know how lily pads sometimes have those beautiful pink flowers? So look, here's your lily pad. It's just a circle with a triangle cut out of it. A little circle with a triangle. Here's another one. And look, I made a super tiny one too. Little backbands. And creatures use these to land on and to live in and to crawl on top of, like frogs and dragonflies. They're pretty cool. I don't know if they're anybody's food. Maybe. Remember the story? I don't know if we read the tadpole story for this craft, but the tadpoles were using these leaves to hide around. So there are your beautiful lily pads, and here is a flower. You can make anything you want for your pond, really. You know, I could make another, I'll show you how to make a lily pad, and we could do one that's a little bit bigger. So you're just going to cut a circle. A circle, a circle. It's different from a square, right? And then on one side, you just do a little triangle. You put a little glue on it, and you're good to go. Now one is a little bit of a different color. So how do you like your pond so far? I think it's awesome. How about if we cut out a fish? I know we really can't see a fish, but sometimes you can see the fish underwater when they're swimming by. So we can make a little fish here. He'll be our little blue fish. Let's see if I can make a better tail. A fish that you can see underwater. Ponds are cool. There's so much life in ponds. Here's our little fishy. You could swim. It's kind of swimming near. He's swimming near the lily pads. So there is your pond. Isn't it cool? You can put anything you want on this. You could cut out more things. You could cut out fish. You could cut out a little dragonfly. You could draw a little dragonfly. You could do anything you want. You can make a little path going up to it with green or brown. So you can have a little green path going up to the bank. Whatever you like. We hope you enjoyed making your pond, reading about ponds, and visiting ponds today. Please join us next time when we'll make another super wonderful craft. And we hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, take care, and be safe, everybody.